Okay, Matt Patella here again, and today we're going to be working from Gary Shafee's pattern series, Time Functions. I lost the cover on it because I play it so often. We're going to discuss cymbal ostinatos, a heavy backbeat, and permutating the bass drum against the ostinatos. So let's talk about, first off, this is going to be definitely cymbal and snare ostinatos. So, what is an ostinato? An ostinato is a pattern which repeats itself over and over and over again. So, we're going to be utilizing four different voices today: the bass drum, the hi-hat, the ride cymbal, and the snare. Okay? Now, if you have the Shafee book, which you should have, I do a tremendous amount of work from this book. So what we're going to do first, if you have the book, let's go to the cymbal ostinatos. Now, when he refers to cymbals, he has a certain way of writing it. Well, it's the normal way of writing, the standard way, and it's all X's. So, and also when you use the hi-hat with the right hand, it's the same thing. Now, he takes the ostinato combinations, for example, and takes all the laws of probability of a combination or the ways to do 4/16. For example, I could just play the count of one as a cymbal ostinato. 1, 2, 3, 4. However, this is going to be straight up and down. It's not going to be swung. So we're going to talk about 1E and the 2E and the 3E and the 4E and the. Or I could take that same, which is another probability. I could play just the ands of that particular pattern of the 16ths. 1E and the 2E and the 3E and the 4E and 1E and the 2E and the 3E and the 4E and or let's take all 4/16s and play them on the hi-hat. 1E and a 2E and a 3E and 4E and a, okay? Or just eighth notes. 1E and the 2E and 3E and the 4E and. Now I just explained four different possibilities of a cymbal ostinato. So we're going to make this a little bit, we're going to put a backbeat on the counts of 2 and 4 while we're playing it. So let's take the money beat, as I refer to it as eighth notes on the hi-hat. 1E and the 2E and 3E and the 4E and. And we're going to put a backbeat on the count of 2 and 4. Now, that's referred to backbeat, but you're pronouncing the 2 and 4. And it's giving you that rock and back and forth, that rocking motion back and forth when you do that. 1E and the 2E and 3E and the 4 and 1E and the 2 and 3E and the 4 and. Now notice the right hand. When I'm playing the right hand, I have two different sounds on that hi-hat. I have the downstroke and the upstroke's a little lighter. 1E and a 2E. That pushes the downbeat. And 4E and 1E and 2E and. Now I look like a robot here. And this is how I teach, not like a robot. Hello, John. We're working at the Shafee book today, the pattern series, uh, Time Functionings. I hope you have the book. And I'm discussing what cymbal ostinatos are. Now, I've posted a tremendous amount of videos on YouTube and also in all my drumming groups that I created on Facebook. And when I teach, uh, I explain what is exactly happening with the drumstick. For example, if I'm doing it slow, and it does look like I'm a robot and a little bit of stiff. But what it is a downstroke and an upstroke. That gives me two different sounds, one E and a two. Now when I'm playing it, it's loose. But I'm showing you what I'm doing with the drumstick so that you understand it and you could work with it. It's just one E and a two E and three E and a four E and. Now there's a reason why I'm counting it as one E and two E and three E and four E and, as opposed to one and two and three and four and. Now I just played the same thing, but I had but I have two different concepts there, two different counting systems. And there's a reason why you want to count the 16th note count, because it's going to give you a tremendous amount of possibilities of playing the bass drum between the 1 and 3 or the 2 and 4 or whatever manipulation that you'd like. All right, but it's so you want to make it even. So let's take the first ostinato pattern. I'm going to do it slow. Again, I'm not a robot. I'm not stiff. I'm very relaxed, but I'm explaining. It's an educational platform, not a performance platform. So I'm playing one E as my hi-hat, the 8th note, 1 E and 2 E, and backbeat on 2 and 4, 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and. Again, it looks stiff, but that's what's occurring when I'm playing. It's nice and relaxed. So now the first combination with the bass drum is going to be on the counts of 1 and 3. 1 E and, nice and slow, 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and. Now I just need to say this before I continue. This out of these voices, the hi-hat, the snare drum, and the bass drum is the dominant voice. Now if I played the bass drum by itself, it's like an explosion. Or if I played a backbeat on a snare by itself, that's another explosion. And I played the hi-hat, there's no explosion there, but there's three different sounds, three different voices. When I put them as one, that's a different voice, a sound altogether. One. Okay, so now we're going to play that pattern. It's an ostinato pattern, 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and we're going to play the bass drum on the count of 1 and 3. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and. Simple pattern. Now notice when I hit that bass drum and my right hand hits at the same time, it does not dictate the volume of my right hand. So that's the first pattern. You just keep practicing it. And 3 E, then nice and slow. Get it nice and even, and then bring it up in tempo. 1, 2, 3 E and the 4 E and the 1 E and the 2 E and 3, 4, 1, 2. A consistent sound. That's what an ostinato pattern is. An ostinato pattern is a pattern which repeats itself over and over again, and also not only in rhythm, but in sound, it's consistent. So that my right hand and my left hand are consistent. Okay, that's the first foot pattern. The first foot pattern is on the count of 1 and 3. The next foot pattern is going to be on the count of E of 1 and the E of 3. Now again, I'm going to do it very slow. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 and. Little up tempo. 3, 4. 1 E and 2 and 3 E and 4 and. Okay? Any questions so far? So now we move the bass drum from the count of 1 and 3 to the E of 1 and the E of 3. Now the next movement would be take the bass drum and move it over 1. We're permutating it to the count of, on the count of 1 and the of 3. So I'm going to play the pattern. 1 E and a 2 and 3 E and a, nice and slow, and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and up tempo a little bit. Oh, excuse me. Sorry about that. All right, on the and of 1 and the and of 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Now sometimes I get a crack on that left, on the backbeat. I try to get a part of the rim and the snare at the same time, so it gives a piercing sound. Like 1, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, no questions. Okay, so now the next movement with the bass drum is going to be on the da of 1 and the da of 3. So it's nice and slow again. 1 E and the 2 E and 3 E and the 4. Now on the da. 1 E and a 2 E and 3 E and a 4 and 1 E and a 2 and 3 E and a 4 and. All right, so now let's play them together. Let's maintain the ostinato on top. That's the hi-hat and the snare drum. And let's move the bass drum over. Let's play one measure on the count of 1 and 3. The next measure on the E of 1 and the E of 3. Then the and of 1, the and of 3. Then the da of 1, and then the da of 3. That's referred to as sometimes as the grid. The grid means to move over 1. 1 E and the 2 E and the 3 E and the 4 E and da. So let's play this. On the 1 and 3 first. 1, 2. On the E now. And. Da. Got it, gentlemen? That's the basic pattern. Okay, so now, what are some other possibilities? Usually, when I'm playing patterns like that, the money beat, it's more or less for cover tunes or playing standard rock tunes on a gig or whatever. It's a standard 2 and 4 beat. It's referred to sometimes as the money beat. So I just demonstrated how to maneuver now the bass drum from the 1 and 3, the E of 1, the E of 3, the and of 1, the and of 3, the da of 1, and the da of 3. So if you don't have the book, perhaps that's the furthest you're going to get with today's lesson with the patterns book. If you have the stick control book, I reference off the stick control book. What's this? What sounds like bottom? Oh, all right. Thank you. That's a compliment. But it's not. It's just a simple money beat. Anyway, possibilities with the bass drum. There's like 22 different patterns he has in the book. Do you have the book, John? Do you have patterns, time functions? You have that? If you do, or anyone else who's watching right now, if you have it, that's great. Tell me if you have it, then I can continue in the book. If not, I'm going to go to the stick control book and show you how I develop different foot patterns, or how I get different foot patterns from the stick control book. And like I was saying before the question came, when I usually play the backbeat on 2 and 4, I try to hook up with the bass line and try to make my bass drum sound like the bass player's line that he's playing. So I'm in the pocket, so to speak, with the bass player. And then from that point, the band is all together. I'm locked in. It's a commercialized, not creative way of playing, but it's a money beat, is what it is. Anyway, let's go to the stick control book, and let me explain. Well, you should purchase it, John. It's a great book. He has a series. He has about 6 publications out, and I have all of them. And the one I work out of the most is the time functions, and I do a tremendous amount of work at it here. So if you're going to frequent the lessons, I would advise you just to pick the book up. It comes with a disc, so you can hear him perform some of the notation. Anyway, let's go to the stick control book and how I reference off the stick control book to get some different variations with the bass drum as an exercise and as a musical approach, okay? First as an exercise. So let's look at the first line of stick control book. Again, page 5, line 1. It's written at 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 measures. 1, 2, 3, 4. Excuse me. We're going to consolidate the line as, instead of 2 measures, 1 measure. And we're going to think of it as 16ths. 1 E and a 2 E and 3 E and a 4 E and a. That's how I'm looking at that paid line. And I'm saying, okay, I'm going to get my bass drum. Wherever there's a right, I'm going to play my bass drum. I'm going to eliminate the lefts. So I look at the first line now with that approach, and here's what my bass drum line becomes. 1 E and a 2 E and 3 E and a 4 E and a, against the ostinato pattern. 1 E and nice and slow. 3 E and a 4 and 1 E and a 2 E and 3 E and a 4 E and. Okay, line 2. Now, it's written with the left hand lead. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and we're going here. 1 E and a 2 E and a E and a 4 E and a. And now all the rights are falling on the E and the da. So we have 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a against the pattern, against the ostinato pattern. 1 E and nice and slow, and 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a boom. Okay, now a little up tempo. 3, 4. Again, I'm sorry, my mistake. 3, here you go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Over and over again. Now, we go to line 3. Now the bass drum is going to be on 1 E and 2 E and E and 4. You got that? Again. Go to line 4. The bass drum falls on the and does of each downbeat. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and E and so we have 1. So on and so forth. All right, line 5, the bass drum's falling on 1 E and 4 E and 2 E against the pattern. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now this is just one ostinato pattern of quite a few that you can make up yourself. Good practicing how to manipulate and maneuver the bass drum against the hands, the pattern. That pattern is consistent. That's my money beat, so to speak. Okay? Now, with all that being said, I mean, I'm trying to take a bass line and play whatever the bass player is playing with my bass drum, like I said, so we could lock in or get in or create the pocket, so the remainder of the band is tight and they can play inside of that pattern. All right, questions? Questions, gentlemen? Okay, no questions. All right, that's the first ostinato. And we're just going to do that today because we're going to remain on this book for quite a while. So, John, you should get the book, John. It's available on Amazon.com. It'll take you less than 2 days to get the book. Because Wednesday's lesson, we're going to continue with the ostinato patterns. And there's a lot of jazz patterns in here as well. And a lot of development for the hi-hat against the patterns and harmonic coordination, cross-harmonic coordination, so on and so forth. Okay? Now, tonight's lesson on my site, we're going to be dealing with Miles Davis and Wayne Shorter. Miles Davis had recorded a tune called Four, F-O-U-R. There's going to be a breakdown, and I'm going to give my students my approach and how I learned the tune, and hopefully it helps them. And if I have enough time, Footprints by Wayne Shorter, which is in 6/4. And we're going to break down the whole structure and learn the tune, hum the tune, play the tune, so on and so forth. So, John, what you should do, hopefully, is join my site. Do you know the address of the site, John? That's the address. Why don't you join the site, John? Because it's a different thing than this. This is more like a networking kind of broadcast. I don't know what your time zone is. If you're in Europe, I don't know what time you would be available. Okay. Anyway, any questions? If not, then I'm going to close up. If there's questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them. Like, what do I do with my right hand? Do I do it open-handed? And I do. We will be doing this again, over and over again, from the book, not just this particular ostinato, but a variety of ostinatos. I'm going to play them open-handed as well. The right hand lead, the left hand lead. To develop that equalized right side and left side of the brain. Okay? So, no questions? I hope this has helped you somewhat. And it's taking you on the right path to becoming better. And I'm just sharing with you my approach. Okay, gentlemen, we'll see everybody Wednesday, 4 p.m., perhaps with a longer lesson. Okay? More detail. I just wanted to give you sort of, not a trailer, but a little, I guess it's a little bit of a trailer of the up and coming stuff that we're going to be working on. John, try to purchase the book. You'll love it. Time Functions. There's 4 books in the series of patterns. The one you want to buy, if you're going to buy it, is Time Functions. Okay, John. You're welcome, John, and whoever else is listening. Okay. Have a good afternoon.